We've already got a banger list of games that are coming out in the first 6 months of the Nintendo Switch 2's life cycle. Those being Mario Kart 8, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Metroid Prime 4, and Pokemon Legends ZA. We've got a handful of things to be excited about, not to mention all the third-party stuff that will be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. However, today I've compiled a list of games that I would like to see ported to the Nintendo Switch 2 that are not already on the Switch. So these aren't games like Apex Legends or Rocket League that already have versions on the Nintendo Switch. These are games that are not currently on the system that I would love to see added to some capacity. And I've got a list of games that range from multiplayer to single player and just stuff that I feel would be perfect addition to this new powerful console. So let's get right into the list here. First and foremost, I have Smite 2. This game is very good. Smite was already on the Nintendo Switch. However, Smite 2 is a new version of Smite that is only available currently on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. And I feel like now that we have a more powerful Switch system, porting this over to the Nintendo Switch 2 already makes a ton of sense, especially because Smite 1 existed on the Nintendo Switch. This is a MOBA game, much in the same vein of League of Legends, where you play as different gods from different mythos and then battle other players online. It is a very fun, addictive, free-to-play game that I have dumped tons of hours into in Smite 1 on my original Nintendo Switch and would love to be able to dump tons of hours into on my Nintendo Switch 2. In a similar vein, as far as multiplayer games go, I would love to see Marvel Rivals make its way to the Nintendo Switch. Marvel Rivals is a new hero shooter that took the world by storm in December when it launched, and it is very similar to Overwatch, which is currently on the Nintendo Switch, that includes the Marvel heroes in different classes such as damage dealers, tanks, or supports, and it is a very fun, addictive game. I will say though that currently this game does not have cross progression, and if they were to bring Marvel Rivals over to the Nintendo Switch, I would really like them to add cross progression so that way I wouldn't have to restart and have all new account on this system. I would really like that addition, and especially considering that the Nintendo Switch 2 has mouse support, Marvel Rivals would be right at home as far as PC shooters go on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now we're moving into a little darker territory. I really like horror games personally. I like Dead by Daylight. The original Outlast games are on the Nintendo Switch and I enjoy those. The Resident Evil franchise, I just enjoy those games. So the game next that I want to talk about is the Outlast Trials. This is a fantastic solo or co-op survival horror game that puts you in the trials of the Outlast universe, and you go through different environments with different tasks and try to complete the challenges to go back to your home base, rank up your character, get new perks, and continue the cycle. It is a very fun game that I've dumped a ton of time into on Steam and played on my Steam Deck, so I see very little reason that this game couldn't come over to the Nintendo Switch, especially with how much beefier the hardware is, and especially because Red Barrel, the maker of Outlast, already has the first 2 games on the Nintendo Switch. They have a good partnership there. I see no reason that we couldn't see the Outlast Trials come over, and I'm always looking for more mature games on the Nintendo Switch system. I love playing my horror games on the Switch system on the go, and I think the Outlast Trials would be absolutely perfect. Not to mention that this game has so much content available, so many hours that you can dump into it, especially because they have weekly different difficulties and challenge modes that you can partake in where they change up previous levels and put new modifiers on them. It's just a really well-built game, especially for horror fans. And being that it is a co-op survival game, you can now use the voice chat feature to play this with friends, and I think that would be really nice. Next up is one from Blizzard and Xbox, and that is Diablo 4. Now, Blizzard has a history of putting games over onto the Nintendo Switch, with Diablo 3 being on the Nintendo Switch, and I feel like Diablo 4 would be right at home on the Nintendo Switch too. Especially considering that games like Elden Ring are getting pushed to the Nintendo Switch too, I see no reason that something like Diablo 4 would not come over to the system. And as far as the action RPG games go, Diablo is definitely one of my favorites. I put so many hours into Diablo 4, not to mention that Diablo 4 already has access to cross progression, so if you buy the game there, all of your stuff from other accounts is going to sync up and you'll be able to just continue your adventure on the Nintendo Switch 2. That would be fantastic, especially because this game runs incredibly well on the Steam Deck. I've dumped tons of hours into Diablo 4 on my Steam Deck, and I would love to do the same on my Nintendo Switch 2, so fingers crossed this one makes the jump, because I would be all over that. The next one is another one from Xbox, and it's a little interesting, and that is Forza Horizon 5. Now, Xbox has been doing a ton of porting games over to PlayStation. We already know that Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation. I believe Forza Horizon 5 has been confirmed for PlayStation as well. And Xbox and Nintendo have a great partnership. They constantly are moving games over to the Nintendo Switch when possible. So with the Nintendo Switch 2, I would love to see Forza Horizon make that jump. And yes, we already have Mario Kart coming that has open world and things of that nature. However, if you're looking for a little more grounded racing simulator, I think Forza Horizon would be a fantastic addition to the Nintendo Switch library. And it's just one of my favorite Xbox games. It's beautiful. The gameplay is so fun. I dumped tons of hours into it. I would love to be able to pick that up and play it on the Nintendo Switch. And Xbox is typically pretty good about having some form of cross progression by linking your Xbox account. So that would be really, really cool to be able to merge your Xbox profile over on the Nintendo Switch and continue racing where you left off. So that way you don't have to reboot all of your car library and everything like that. You have everything. That would be super, super cool. Next up is Assassin's Creed. Now, Assassin's Creed has a history on Nintendo Switch. There was the Ezio collection that made its way over. There was the Black Flag and Rogue bundle that made its way. Assassin's Creed 3 got put on the Nintendo Switch. I would love to see more Assassin's Creed games on there. I'm a big fan of the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I think that it would be right at home on the new Switch. Not even necessarily the older ones, looking at things like Syndicate and Unity that aren't currently on the Nintendo Switch systems. I'm talking more of the newer ones, whether it be Origins, Valhalla, Odyssey, or even Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, I do believe there is a listing of Assassin's Creed Shadows for the Nintendo Switch as far as ratings go, so there is a possibility that this is coming in the very near future, but it is a franchise that I would like to see make its way over to the Nintendo Switch, especially because it's shown Ubisoft has Switch support currently. They're bringing over the Star Wars game, Star Wars Outlaw, that came out to Nintendo Switch 2, so I would love to see more Ubisoft make its way over. And on the subject of Ubisoft, why not bring over the Far Cry games? I personally am a huge fan of the Far Cry games. If you get one Far Cry game, you played them all. They're all pretty much the same thing, but they are a ton of fun. Just mindless fun, dumping time into these games. I really enjoy them. And this is another one where having mouse access with the Nintendo Switch 2, I feel like this game would be so much fun playing with a mouse on the Nintendo Switch 2. So I'd be really keen to see the Far Cry games get ported over as well from Ubisoft. The next one, I'm going to admit, it's a bit of a pipe dream. It's not something I really expect to see, but it's something I would absolutely love to see come over. And that is something from Sony. This is Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is a fantastic co-op shooter that is very arcadey and just a ton of fun to dump time into. But Sony isn't the best at playing nicely with others in the history of gaming, so I would be very shocked to see this game actually make its way to the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it would be fantastic because it's already on Steam as well. I think it'd be super cool to see this game make the jump over and be able to be played on the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it'd be a perfect addition. Again, mouse controls would be fantastic for this. I just think this is such a fun game and would enhance the library of the Switch so much. But again, I don't know that Sony wants to play nice, especially because we got Duskbloods instead of a new Bloodborne on the Switch 2. So I don't know if Sony wants to play nice and actually put this game out on Switch 2, but I would love to see it. Next is one that I just can't believe isn't already on the Switch to some capacity, and that's the Fallout franchise. Now, in previous years, I would have said Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas. I feel like that would have been just the, makes sense kind of thing to port over to the Nintendo Switch, especially because we already had Skyrim on the Switch. However, that wasn't the case. For whatever reason, we didn't get those games. But with the boosted hardware of the Nintendo Switch 2, I think Fallout 4 or maybe even Fallout 76 would be an awesome addition to the Nintendo Switch library, especially considering the fact that the Fallout show was such a success. They are sitting on a huge money pit right now if they put the Fallout games onto the Nintendo Switch 2. They are sitting on so much money that I don't even know. It would be phenomenal. The success of the Fallout show was absolutely crazy, and the game sales boosted so much. So when Season 2 comes out, I could totally see them bringing over Fallout 4 or something else to the Nintendo Switch 2. The final game that I think would be absolutely fantastic to see come to the Nintendo Switch 2 would be Red Dead Redemption 2. This game is massive, but I think the Nintendo Switch 2 would be able to handle it. And even if it couldn't necessarily handle it on the system itself, maybe bringing it over with one of the streaming access like they did with Control or Resident Evil 8 on the original Nintendo Switch would be a good way to bring this game to the system. I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 would be able to handle this, considering that Steam Deck is able to actually play Red Dead Redemption 2. I think the Nintendo Switch 2 would be able to match that and be able to play this game on the hardware. So I'm very hopeful that we could see something as big and as open as Red Dead Redemption 2 make its way to the Nintendo Switch, especially because Red Dead Redemption 1 made its way to Switch 1. I would love to see Rockstar continue that support and bring over Red Dead Redemption 2 now that we have beefier hardware over at the Nintendo side of things. I think this would be a fantastic game to see. But that concludes my list. I tried to pick games that are not currently on the system. If there are games that are on the system that need updates, I'm going to make a separate video talking about that, because I think there are some games that are currently on the system that desperately need updates, and I'm hoping to get those updates, and I'm going to bring those up in another video because there are a handful that I'd like to talk about. But that is it for this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below if there's any games that you would like to see ported to the Nintendo Switch 2 that I did not list in this video. That would be really cool. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video if you guys list a lot of cool ones. But until next time, peace.